Hello, YouTube. Hello, TikTok. I am Ma Laurie, your, hang on just a minute, technical difficulties. There we go. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Hi, Annika. Thank you for joining my live. Hello out there in YouTube. Tonight, I'm going to discuss 5 signs of when you should have a conversation if you're caregiving for your loved one, and you might want to think about hospice. Now, hospice is palliative care to end of life care. And what it is it helps you be able to take care of your loved one and help you help your loved one have the dignity in the life ending journey that they want. So, again, my name is Ma Laurie. I'm your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. Thank you for coming in. You're welcome in, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments. So, the first sign that you want to look at is how many ER visits have you had? Have you had a lot? And did you have any hospitalizations? And after those hospitalizations, what happened during those hospitalizations? What's the condition that your family loved one is going through right now? Now, it doesn't mean that you're just giving up and that you're wanting your loved one to not do anything. It just means that you get special help and you still are under constraints of the diagnosis codes and all that, but it's a little bit broader in the sense that if there are things like you no longer able to do some physical therapy, no longer able to do occupational therapy, things that keep them mobile and going because they're just unable to, and they haven't been for quite a while. So sometimes insurances say, we're no longer going to help you in the chronic stage. Hospice is a way to look at, and that's if you're meeting some signs. Just because you have ER visits doesn't mean that a lot of them that it's time to think of hospice. Excuse me a minute. Excuse me. Again, for those of you just joining in, I'm Ma Laurie, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. Welcome in, welcome in. For you that are on the outside and not ready to kind of join in, that's okay. You don't have to come in. You can still get the benefit of this conversation just by listening. Excuse me, just again. Sometimes I just get a dry tickle and it takes just a little bit. So we discussed one of the one signs is frequent ER visits. We're talking in a month. Hi, Gemma. Hi, Paula. How are you? Thank you for joining me. I'm Ma Laurie, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. And we're talking about signs of when to have a conversation about hospice. Hi, Patricia. Thank you for joining. Obviously, it's going to be one of those nights. Indeed. And hospice doesn't mean we're giving up. No, we're not giving up. What we want is dignity and care. Welcome in the halls. Thank you for joining my live. What we're looking at Thank you for the love. Thank you for the love. Is how we can support your loved one who may not want to be actively doing certain things. They just want to be comfort care. Comfort care doesn't mean that we're still not caring. It doesn't mean that we're giving up. What it means is that we're going to do exactly what our loved one wants. No more hospitalizations usually, um, due to whatever outcomes of the ER visits, hospital visits. Those are all hard things on your loved one, and especially ones with dementia. The other thing that you want to look at, um, are there noticeable declines? Meaning, hi, Nick. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Steph. Thank you for joining in. By the way, hi, Killer Cat. Thank you for joining in. I just wanted to say that I want to reintroduce myself since we've got some new people coming in. Hi, Charles. I'm Ma Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator, and we're discussing hospice. The first thing that we talked about, and one of the signs that might be time to think about and have a conversation with your loved ones. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Jill. Thank you for joining in. Is frequent hospitalizations in ERs. Now we're talking about in a year. They've had 3 or more ER visits and 2 or 3 hospital visits within a certain time frame, like within 3 to 6 months. Now, does that mean you have to look at hospice? No. It just means that there's an option. Hi, JMO. Hi, Jill. Thank you for joining in. Ma Lori here, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. And what we're doing right now is we're looking at what are the signs. First one is frequent hospitalizations in ERs. We're talking about a number of 3 to 6 within a 3-month period. Now, there can be extenuating circumstances to your loved one with dementia. Hi, Gloria. Thank you for coming in. Hi, Verna. Thank you for joining. Hi, Tom. Thank you for joining. Hey, welcome in in YouTube land. What we're looking at is how can we better help our loved one? How can we support them when Medicare or Medicaid are saying, no more are we going to supply this because your loved one is chronic and they may be pushing hospice. Now, you never have to accept hospice, but there is a thing called palliative care. Now, palliative care does not mean hospice in the sense of what hospice is, end of life. Palliative care can be that if you're wanting comfort care. And it helps provide some things that, especially if VA or Medicaid are saying, time out, we're stopping, we're no longer going to do this, or you have to do this in order for us to continue this benefit because we're obviously seeing something and you're saying this about your loved one. So, any questions so far by anybody out there? Hi, thank you for your joining in, Jay Money. And Debbie, thank you for joining into my live. If you have questions about what hospice is, put it in the chat. If you have a question about what palliative care is, put it in the chat. I'll be happy to answer any questions. But I'm hoping that as I'm explaining, as we go along and we look at how do we have this conversation? What determines that conversation? What doesn't determine that conversation? Well, the wonderful thing is that conversation is totally and explicitly up to you as the caregiver. What is it you and your loved one wanted for the journey moving forward with the dementia, with the care, with the decline, with the progression of the dementia? And a lot of times in that, you've had that in the early signs or even way before dementia was even on the presence. And those families, those are wonderful things. But for you that are thrown into the throes where, wow, I just figured out my loved one, my mom, my dad, my husband, my brother, my sister, my cousin, whoever it may be that has dementia, it's not a life sentence, but it's not a death sentence either. Hi, Duke. Welcome in. Hi, Mercy. Welcome in. What it is what it is. And it makes caregiving extremely difficult. And my next live tomorrow night, we'll talk a little bit more about the uniqueness of dementia and caregiving. Right now, we're talking about signs that you might need hospice. It's a prevalent thing. You don't want to wait till they say, oh, you might want to think about it now based on what you're seeing. And you can generate the conversations with the providers. So, who here is caregiving? Hi, Susan. Hi, Michael. Hi, Debbie. Thank you for joining in. Again, for those that are new, I'm Ma Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. And we're having a discussion about hospice. Who are caregiving out here? Give me a 1 if you're caregiving, 2 if you know somebody that's caregiving, and 3 if you just want to know about it before you get into the throes of it. Put that in the chat. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Louisa. Louise. Hi, Michael. Thank you for joining in. You're welcome in, welcome in. And you on YouTube, welcome in, welcome in. I am again Ma Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. And we're discussing hospice. So, have they had frequent hospitalizations or ER visits? 2 to 3 within 3 months, 2 to 3 hospital visits within 3 to 6 months. You might want to put that in your head, put that on a little checklist just for keeping your mind on. The next is, have you noticed any decline that you are aware of, that you're seeing? Now, there's some that come into the home and they can recognize a decline, but they may not know some of the decline because you're with them 24/7. And with you being with them 24/7, you get to notice those declines even sooner. Are they no longer being able to hold up their trunk? Are they no longer being able to chew? Are they no longer, these are just some ideas. Are they no longer being able to speak? At certain stages of dementia, their speech patterns, they forget that they could talk. They forget how to chew. They forget that they can hold their trunk up. Now, there's a difference between being weak because of an ongoing acute symptom and them not being able to keep their trunk up because they're tired and they're weak. That's different. When I'm talking about they forget to hold up their trunk, they're not holding it up any at all. They're always leaning forward. You're literally helping them to relax back. That's what I'm talking about. That's the level of what I am discussing. So again, for those just coming in, I am Ma Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator, and we're discussing hospice. So ER visits, 2 to 3 within a 3-month period, hospitalizations, 2 within a 3 to 4 6-month period. And how long were those hospitalizations as well? Frequent falling. Are they falling more? Especially if they're mobile. They forget that they forget how to walk. They forget how to keep moving those feet. And are they retrainable? Those are things that you want to look at. And when you're looking at decline, that you're noticing That is some of the things that you would notice. So the next thing is eating. Are they decreasing their food intake? Now, they can decrease their food intake for lots of reasons because they've got an ongoing chronic acute issue. Pain, they may not feel like eating because of pain. They may not feel like eating because they just feel like, quote unquote, shit. Okay. Again, for those just joining in, hi, Jackie. Thank you for joining. I'm Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator, and we're talking hospice. What are some signs that you might want to open up the conversation and see? Eating. Is it a decline? How long has the decline been? Are they eating less and less and less? Are they having more days where they're eating 20% as opposed to eating 50 to 75%? Drinking. How are you have they forgotten how to get the fluids themselves? And do we need to do that for them? And when we're doing that, are they still decreasing in their drinking intake because they've forgotten how to swallow for a moment? These are all things to keep in your minds. The next thing you want to look at is treatment. How long do we want treatments to go on? Wound care. They could be dealing with chemotherapy or some kind of other therapies, ongoing therapies for autoimmune disorders. Do we want to keep doing that? Welcome in, Acid Betty. Welcome in, user. And hey, by the way, we're talking about something heavy. Let me know how your night is going in the chat. Are you having a good night? Are you having an okay night? I'm glad you're here. And we're talking about hospice. And hospice does not mean giving up. It does not mean the end. And palliative care it's just care to help get you and your loved one as much quality of life and quantity, but especially quality as we can as the last of their days are being eked out, because ultimately your loved one is determining what is or isn't part of the end of their journey. If treatments are no longer effective or you're feeling like we just can't get anywhere, we're not seeing any changes, you might want to consider stopping those treatments, especially if it's hurting your loved one more than it's helping. Those are things to consider, and those are individual decisions. I am not a guru. I am not going to say, oh, hey, you need to do this. I'm saying, look at the picture. You know your loved one. You know what you want, what they want, and you just trust yourselves. You trust yourself and what you and your loved one wanted. Hi, Tree. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Remy. Thank you for joining in. I'm Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator, and we're talking about signs of having a conversation for hospice. Now, just because your loved one might meet these signs doesn't mean that, oh, yeah, there's 5, or there's 2, there's 3. No, it's something to keep in consideration. And as you're monitoring your loved one, watching them, are they having better days where the decline doesn't seem to be as bad? And we just had a short period. Hi, Paula. Thank you for joining my live. I'm Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. Let me know how you're doing tonight. How is your evening going? I also want to say that you know your loved one best. You know what they wanted, especially if you are the power of attorney for medical, and a lot of times the power of attorney of financial. Those are all considerations to take into consideration. And if you've been chosen for that durable power of attorney, your loved one trusted you with a lot of faith that you would carry out their wishes. And that being said, if you're on here or you're out there listening the replay of the live, then you're You're wanting to do the best for your loved one. You're wanting to fulfill their dignity even at the end. You want them comfortable. You want them better, to be as best as they can be. Hi, King. Thank you for joining in. I'm Mallory, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator, and we're talking hospice. It is a hard thing to sometimes talk about, but it's never too soon to talk about hospice. I have an aging mom. Is she ready for hospice? No. Is she ready for comfort care? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. She's been a frequent flyer to the ER for various things. But so far, she's doing better. She wants to get better. She wants to stay as independent as possible. She's living in her own apartment. I am watching for signs, and that's one of the things in one of my lives that I'm also going to talk about. When is it time to get assisted living? So far, she's doing okay. But there will be a time where, and I've already had the conversation with her, Mom, if you aren't able to do this, this, and this, I'm going to have to put you in assisted living because I'm just not up for it. Hi, Meg. Thank you for joining my live. Again, Ma Lori here, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. And I am just thankful that you're all here. You're listening and you're wanting to learn about hospice and having those hard conversations with loved ones, with yourself, and with your loved one to say, maybe we should consider it. Because they can provide care. Their parameters to be able to provide certain cares are different than, especially for palliative versus hospice. They do have criteria that you have to meet at each level. Palliative is when you're definitely just wanting comfort care and you don't want to no longer go to the VA. You no longer want to go to the provider. And this gives you more freedom to have providers that do telehealth visits, that sort of thing, where you don't have to take your loved one out and compromise their health if they're not capable of being taken out. It's a hard conversation. It's a hard place to think about, but it's a wonderful place when you have the right hospice involved. I worked as a hospice nurse for 2 years and I loved it. And I wouldn't trade it for the life. It was a blessing. Now, I'm getting ready to close my live, and I want to leave you with this thought. And that thought is going to be a story, and a story of one of my hospices. And even nurses have to think about what's going on. I get the page. I was on from 5 p.m. Friday till 8 a.m. Monday morning. I had a social worker on call with me, and they always went with me, especially to the death, in actively dying deaths. And this one was actively dying, and it was in a part of town that was sketchy. And it's like, Lord, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And I tried to just get the social worker to go. The social worker went and said, Lori, we need you out here. I went, kicking and screaming, but I'm going to tell you, the Lord protected me. I went to that actively dying, and it was a beautiful passing. The family was surrounding with love, prayers, music. They were praying him in to see the Lord. It was beautiful. And that was their funeral service because they couldn't afford a funeral. That was a privilege to be there. And I didn't want to go. But it ended up being a privilege and a blessing. So no, this may not be something you really want to entertain. And I'm not saying you have to look at it tonight. But what I am saying, it may be a conversation that needs to be had and needs to be thought about. Is it time for palliative care? is it time for hospice? How many hospitalizations and ER visits? Is there a decline that I'm just seeing that I'm seeing more decline than I am good days, eating and drinking, falls, treatments. Is the treatment benefiting or is it putting them more at risk? That's all the things that you have to look at. And I thank you so much for everybody being here on my live. And I hope you had a great night. And do you have any plans? Let me know in the chat about any plans that you may have tonight. I hope there are plans to have fun. We just had a good rain here. I'm planning on going lifting, weightlifting, weight training with my husband here in a little bit. And I'm going to open the floor for the next few minutes to see if you guys have any questions. Again, Ma Lori, your aging parent coach and wellness coordinator. I'm here to help you, guide you, support you, and answer any questions that you have. Alrighty then. You guys have a wonderful evening, a blessed evening, and may you have memories to make with your loved one. Have a great night. Bye.